Okay, so welcome today, everyone. Welcome to our session called Stretch to the Max, Household Food Insecurity. This session is hosted by Healthy Aging Alberta and the Core Alberta platform and the Core Food Security Group. So welcome to our session here. We have some great content for you. I am Stephanie Bansky. I am from the Healthy Aging Alberta team. I am the engagement and communications specialist here, and I also navigate the Core Alberta platform, and I'm your main contact for that. So first, I will start off with our land acknowledgement. In the spirit of our journey to promote reconciliation, we would like to honor the truth of the shared history and acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. And I am tuning in today from Mohkinstsis, which today is known as Calgary, and it is on the Treaty 7 lands and Métis Region 5 and 6. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional knowledge keepers and nations that are in the Treaty 7 territories where I'm tuning in from today. So some housekeeping here. If when we're presenting, we'll just have you mute yourself. You can add your questions or comments to the chat, and we will give some time at the end here for you to ask them as well verbally if you would like. We will be, and of course you probably all know where the stop video is nowadays. If you have any reactions or comments or questions, you may raise your hand. We'll probably leave most of it to the end, but we'll see if Kelly has time in between, if they're pertinent questions. So please place them in the chat. We will be recording this session today, and we put all the group event recordings on our Healthy Aging Alberta YouTube afterwards. So we'll send out a post email afterwards when the event recording is live so that you can catch up and watch it after this. Okay, I will now pass it over to my colleague here, Jennifer, who's going to introduce Callie for us.
Thanks, Stephanie. As mentioned, my name is Jennifer Sundberg, and I am honored today to introduce you to my colleague and our guest speaker, Kelly Chung. Kelly is a population and public health dietitian in Alberta Health Services. As a quick summary, she works on the Public Health Nutrition Services Provincial Strategy Team, meaning she provides leadership areas that the entire province is focusing on. Food security is one of these areas. Kelly will also give you further details about herself shortly, so I don't want to steal her thunder. I have heard Kelly speak before. She is very knowledgeable and also an excellent speaker and a pleasure to listen to. So at this time, I want to welcome Kelly.
Thanks, Jen. A minute here. My Zoom is doing many things. Why not? Sorry, just trying to get rid of this dance here. Sorry, just please bear with me while I'm trying to navigate these technical difficulties. So thank you so much for the introduction, Jen. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself to start, because I do feel like our life experience shapes the perspectives and ideas that I have to share with you today. I am a first-generation immigrant. I am a settler from Hong Kong. I was born in Hong Kong and immigrated to Canada with my family to Vancouver, where I was really raised for most of my I guess, adolescence and young adult years. So I immigrated as a family to, and I just do recall my experiences as a youth. Since I finished my schooling in Vancouver, and then I did my internship or my practicum as a dietitian in Ottawa, and then I came back to Alberta to work. I lived in cities most of my life, first in Lethbridge and then in Calgary. But I've worked in several rural communities in Alberta, such as Taber, Crow's Nest Pass. I've also had the pleasure of being a visitor to some First Nation communities to do some research project or consulting work. So I could say that I think most of my experiences, my lens are city-based, but I have just exposure to different realities of different rural communities. I also am a mother of two very busy children. It keeps my day very interesting. And I work as a public health dietitian. My role is really to support different provincial teams and different organizations. But I can see with the attendees that I do have several of my colleagues who are dietitians that work in the communities joining us today. So I'm really happy to have them here and really do invite them to share their stories and their experience as we're having this conversation. And I would just, for those who are community-based, I'd love to be able to help make connections with local dietitians if you're interested on working on this topic or anything related to food and nutrition. And then just be able to exchange ideas and we share some of the experience or insights that we've heard to help you with your community projects. Our outline today are really in two parts. There's three boxes here, but really in two parts. We'll try and start with building a common understanding of what household food insecurity is. Talk a little bit about or brainstorm together how communities can help. And integrated within the presentation itself are lots of sharing and discussion opportunities. Because I mean, I have some information to share, really compiling from stories I've heard, best practices we've read about. But I would be really interested in just hearing about experiences from your community. So we'll start off with just talking about what is household food insecurity. So household food insecurity is a symptom of financial strain. And, we are hearing stories, more and more stories from older adults, from working adults, from families about how when the amount of money that comes in each month or the money that we have to spend each month just doesn't cover our basic needs like shelter, transportation, and food. And when that happens, food is probably one of the most, flexible expenses that can be cut. And that's where families, individuals will cut first. Now, I've come across a video on our local newspaper, the Calgary Heralds, and I see Ashley from the Kirby Center here. It's actually a story from an interview with Larry Matheson at the Kirby Center on the stories that the organization is hearing from older adults. So I'll just, with that, I will just go to the stories, go to the video and let you hear from that organization. And Ashley, if you have anything to add as we're listening to this, feel free just to jump in. I hope this plays for us.
And I'll pay my rent and utilities. And after I've paid for my cat food, I mean, some of the stories you hear are a little sad. I would say at least a quarter of the seniors that we know who are renting, they've made decisions to reduce their expenditures on medication and groceries so they could pay the rent. And we'll hear stories. Someone will say, I have a cat and I buy cat food and I'll pay my rent and utilities. And after I've paid for my cat food, if I have money left over, I'll buy groceries for myself. And when you hear somebody tell you that, you think, how have we gotten to this point? How can our older adults, how can our seniors be in this situation?
Yeah, so this is a story I heard, and I just really wanted to share today, and maybe just open it up a little bit, for Ashley or others, just to see what they've heard from their community. Feel free just to chat or come off mute.
I think kind of what Larry is talking about, we see that a lot. We've got free food markets that we host twice weekly in Calgary, and they've grown significantly in size. We're seeing almost 200 people at every market. And so we're hearing these kinds of stories from people repeatedly. And we have a lot of folks who are accessing the food bank every 2 weeks and will still come to us for supplemental food. So it just seems like there's not enough right now. And there are a lot of people experiencing that financial strain that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Ashley.
I was at a seniors fair last week, and I happened to be sitting beside the Red Deer Food Bank, and they mentioned to me how their numbers have almost doubled compared to a couple of years ago, how many food hampers they're putting out. And again, of course, a lot of those were older adults. So we are seeing it, I think, everywhere.
Yeah, just like, yeah, definitely increased need. Just like, yeah, food hamper usage doubling. People, it's just even hard to keep up with existing demand, or stories of what we're hearing. And when I hear when I hear just the stories being told here, I hear the tales of compromise, constant compromises people are making day to day with their which bill to pay, what service to access, what foods they are able to buy. So I'll go to the next slide, and we know that the numbers are high, because this is the latest data from Proof, and is showing that more than 1 in 4 Albertans or households are experiencing financial strain, household food insecurity. And there's a range of compromises that people are making with food. A lot of times, I know that when we're thinking about food insecurity, the images of bear cupboards come to mind. But the experience of food insecurity can really range from, as it's measured, from feeling the financial strain and worrying about whether or not you have enough money to buy food on a daily or a monthly basis, to maybe eating some less foods that you prefer, or getting foods that may not have been a preference, or adhere to your dietary restrictions. And then at a severe level, having less food at meals, or skipping meals. And, thinking about all these experiences and compromises that people are making with their food, it's really, it's not just it's more than food. It's not just, absence of food and nutritional health, but it also just that experience of food insecurity, including, that feeling of being worried, has a tremendous impact on someone's psychological, social, and physical health. I'll talk a little bit about what we know about food insecurity in older adults. This is a trend graph that's showing the rates of food insecurity over, this from 2022, and this is percentages on the left, and just a different age range on the right. From this, we hear we see that 1 in 9 seniors in Canada between 65 to 74 experiences food insecurity, and that decreases to about 1 in 12 for those that are 75 plus. If you're looking at the whole graph, we're kind of seeing this like kind of leveling off effect, and then kind of a bit of a drop. And we know that the drop happens around 65 to and plus, to being about half of what women experience between, I guess, the older adulthood, which is 1854. Because of that's when after 65, that's when government benefits like OAS and senior benefits kick in. So there is a little bit more of a reprieve for those who are 65 plus. But, even with this, for seniors who are maximizing their CPP, their GIS, their OAS, any savings that they have, Alberta Seniors Benefit, from a social worker we connected with, many people are, many seniors are just kind of making about a maximum about $1,800 a month. And while that sounds like, that's an amount, with the increased cost of living, this guaranteed income isn't going as far as it used to. And we're seeing more and more people struggling. And yeah, while there is that better, that income supports, there are older adults that are at highest risk. And income usually is the biggest predictor and largest barrier to be able to pay for all expenses, including food. So those with lower income, there are at higher risk of food insecurity. And then when we look at the other bullets, like racial, the characteristics such as being in a racialized group, living alone, those are very common characteristics with the just general populations who are experiencing household food insecurity. And then in the last couple of bullets, and these are, I guess, research really specific to understand the experience of older adults. For some, the issue of food access is complicated by social and physical factors. So social factors, living alone, not having family or social supports to help with meals or grocery shopping, not having that sense of community belonging or connection. To the experiences of having physical mobility or low energy. So we do realize that food insecurity might be very complex and there's a lot of different factors, but when we're looking at all the different risks together, low income, not having enough money, financial strain is the biggest risk to food insecurity. And, we know about the physical, for the physical impact, we hear about the physical impact of food insecurity. Those who are experiencing food insecurity are more likely to have chronic disease, more frequent admissions to emergency rooms, etc. But the impact of food insecurity goes beyond physical health. It also negatively affects the mental health, employment, sense of social belonging, inclusion, and relationship. And with this, it also negatively then in turn affects our community rates, costs to healthcare, productivity, community participation, connections. And then this is just, very generally, for families, it impacts their children. And then there's this generational effect of, poor mental health, anxiety, etc., and then increase risk of chronic disease, which is kind of carried on through a lifetime and make it really hard for someone to get ahead. And even just get out of the generational effects of food insecurity, poverty, etc. I included this quote because for me, it really just encapsulates the experience of how food insecurity can affect social relationships. I can't go and buy Christmas or birthday gifts for my grandchildren because they experience financial strain and it hurts the individual, and they don't go to their celebration because they feel bad. So this is, this kind of concludes that first section about building just that common understanding of food insecurity. I'd like to open the conversation up and really just kind of hear from you about what you've noticed in your community and who's affected. So again, I invite you to come off mute to just talk about your experience, what you've observed, or feel free to type in the chat box and I'll have Stephanie monitor that, or Jennifer monitor the chat box if there's any comments that come in there. Yeah, Jennifer and Stephanie, just let me know if anything's come in. If not, then I can transition to the next slide. But I'd love to hear about what you're hearing and how it's impacted your communities.
We just had one just pop up right now.
Okay.
So a comment of that they're seeing more older adults experiencing food insecurity in the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially I think just everything's gone up, and like every day I see news articles about just the cost of housing, for those who are renting, going up, hundreds of dollars. And that means that there's food bills. I'm sorry, that means more captive food and other expenses that there is flexibility enough to cut.
Mm-hmm. Another comment, Terry comments that they're seeing many more referrals at their local food bank, and certainly many seniors with just basic income. Tatiana is reflecting that their limited mobility has been a huge barrier for the seniors in accessing food sources at their organization. Sarah has mentioned that we have a lot of older adults in our social prescribing program using the food bank. Lou has commented that increased demand at the food bank, food insecurity affecting not just lower income folks, but beginning to affect middle income earners as well, is what they're seeing. And Allison is reflecting that definitely increased use of the food bank resources. Marika is saying that our seniors coordinator is spending a lot of time trying to navigate limited food insecurity support for older adults. So it sounds like everybody's, yes, reflecting on the same things that you were mentioning.
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about, yeah, these are just like the tip of the iceberg that we're seeing, where there people are needing to go experience, in that state that where they're needing to go to access emergency foods or food bank or what used to be emergency food, but now it's something that's being needing to be used on a more regular basis. And then underneath that as well, then there's just like maybe this population that we're not hearing from, who are experiencing just that juggling, maybe that moderate or mild household food insecurity, where they're just trying to make the best of what they have and just experiencing the worries and the anxiousness and the stress. So thanks everyone for sharing, and we'll go to our next slide and talking. I mean, let's just I think have a open conversation. I'll share some ideas with you today. It's some of the ideas that I've heard and compiled, or we as a team we've heard and compiled from different organizations on what we could do about household food insecurity. But would love to just kind of hear about your community experience as well. And I think I chose this image because I think it's about, how can we working together not only within our teams, in our organization, but also maybe different organizations within the community to, I wonder if there's anything we can do together for those who are attending this session or as part of members of the Food Security Network, Food Corps. So this is, I think I wanted just to start with a case study. So this is, again, the story from the Calgary Heralds. This, tells the tale of a senior who is living on a fixed income, receiving some old age security and Canada pension plan. This senior, she is picking up one shift a week at a travel agency for some extra income. She only spends absolutely what she needs and really is determined to stay in her house and live independently. And I think that's really what, for me, that's what, CORE is about. How can we help our older adults stay in their communities? And this is a quote that really shows what she does to stretch her food dollars. I'll let you give you a minute to read that. And to me, when I'm reading that, I just kind of hear the resourcefulness of our seniors. They're just, very wise and making the best use of everything that they have. And the story continues, talking about how they, the senior wants to continue to live in this community, but really experiencing that great rise in costs. And like a lot of seniors, her bill keeps growing, but her income isn't. So we'll just maybe do this as a case study. I wonder if you reflect on some of the individual story, what are her strengths? And how can we leverage her strengths or what's happening in the community to help? How can the community help with improving her financial well-being? Earlier, we've heard about, when we're in the sharing component, that there's benefits or resource navigation, use of food banks. So certainly those are options. I'm just wondering if we're just thinking about, what are, comprehensive action, like what are some other things that the community can do to help improve our financial well-being? Again, I'll invite you to come up.
So we have some comments here.
Oh, great.
So there's the comment that she seems to have social connections with her son, the senior center, and work. And another comment that she seems to be getting out to work and volunteer and has skills around cooking, stretching food as far as possible. And she knows how to make good use of her food budget. She knows how to cook. Seems like her strengths are sharing, connections, worry, but they worry that the stigma some may feel leads to isolation.
Yeah, I think, the individual has a lot of strengths. And, when I heard her story, I think about that aspect of resourcefulness, wanting to give back. A lot of seniors are looking to talk about how just don't want a handout. They want to give back as well. So, for me, I wondered, are there ways to just kind of integrate, just to have her invite those seniors who are able to be involved in the different type programs that's available in the community, be it social, social connection type of program, or helping in connecting with different other events. I also wonder about, the extra work and shifts that she's picking up, and what are some of the ways that she could, we can build that, as well as those, the financial well-being of her son, who is kind of supporting her with monitoring bank accounts, etc. So I'll go in the next slide. I'll provide some examples of what some different actions that we collected from different organizations, and I'd love to just kind of hear your feedback about how it may or may not work with your community as we have a chat.
I'm going to say one more before we transition. There's one more that popped up. Often we have the need to have difficult conversations about relocating to a cheaper housing option, like subsidized housing, to be able to have money for other needs.
Those are very difficult conversations. And in the end, it's up to the seniors to see what they would be able to do. And I feel like it's really this conversation is about food, but it's more than food, as we're talking about financial well-being and finances, and what are our ways maybe to make those existing programs or housings a little bit more options, a little bit more welcoming, or feel, I don't know, safe, or acceptable to the older adults. So and I think I think there's a lot of different ways we can help reduce the impact of financial strain in the community. Some of the actions that groups might take, and these range from just really prefer ways to supporting immediate needs to tackling the underlying cause of financial strain. So, earlier when we're talking about who experiences food insecurity, there are barriers that specific groups face in accessing existing opportunities, programs, and services. So the different areas of action that I'll kind of share with you today, and with some examples, are reducing social and economic barriers, connecting to income supports and benefits, shifting to charitable responses that are income-based or more aligned with the preferences of with the older adults, and reducing stigma and increasing inclusion in the services and programs that we provide. And all these actions can help in ways to preserve dignity, enhance equity, and increase inclusion. And then as we're talking about these actions, some of these might be focused on older adults, but there are some that are focused across the lifespan. And the reason is because, the more we can set people up to be financially well when they're younger, or before they reach the 65 or the older adult stage, the less risk of food insecurity they'll face. And if you're interested in more of, more details about what I have to present for the rest of the remainder of this session, you can go to you can click on this link if when Stephanie shares the slides, or go to ahs.ca/HFI community for some of our resources. And I just added this little circle because I feel like it's not just one thing that we do or one organization that's going to make the difference. It's about what can we do collectively. What are all the different ways we can help? And it is really together that we could strengthen the wellness of our older adults and community members. So in our community action plan, or sorry, in our community action guide, we do have different ideas for action. And I know that is not meant to be comprehensive. These are just some ideas that we've compiled because we know that every community is very different and you all have your strengths. It's just a list. I think it's always good to have ideas to hear what different people are doing because it may help generate ideas on what resources your community already have and what you can build on. I would be interested, for you as you're looking to see, what are some of these that might apply to your work with older adults? And if you as you're taking a look, if there are some that just kind of comes to mind as to something that you're already doing, feel free just to share it in the chat box. Maybe just a couple more maybe seconds just to take a look at this, and then I'll go into some examples. I'll highlight maybe one example from each of these actions, and we can talk about them. And Jen, if you wanted to put in the chat box a link to this toolkit so people can follow along with them, or just go to the document if they want to take a look at this as we're having a conversation, that would be great.
Yes, I will do that.
Thanks. So my first example that we have, and that kind of falls into the reducing social and economic barrier section, it's about a living wage calculation. I'll talk a little bit about what it is, and then I'll maybe elaborate a lot about how it might apply to older adults. So a living wage is used by community groups to raise awareness of how much income someone needs to afford to live in their community. So the living wage is community specific, and different expenses that you can see in that diagram are collected for the community. And our team of public health dietitian AHS, many of those who are on this call today, contribute to the living wage calculation by collecting the food component of the data for the nutritious food basket. So with the cost of food as being one part of this basic need, it paints a more accurate picture of what income someone needs on a monthly basis to be able to afford healthy foods. And how this information could be used, it's being used to support living wage initiatives in the community. And so how does that apply to older adults? So as you heard from Dorothy's scenario, she actually picks up a shift at a travel agency once a week to help supplement her income. And having a living wage would be able to, I guess, maybe provide her with more of an income or flexible income without having to work many more hours than she already is. And if you're thinking about, her son, who is a really great support, seems like a really good support for her, for him to be able to continue to support her, he needs to be well as well, and financially well as well, and be able to thrive in the community. So I think a living wage could help with sustaining existing support networks from either family members, or even if we're thinking about community agencies who have staff. And I know that there's it's hard to retain staff or help retain staff, or there might be some turnover. Thinking about opportunities to provide living wage could help with providing that more sustainable and consistent support to older adults in the community. The next example I have is about benefits navigation, and it's about helping people access the benefits they're eligible for. And we've heard from a support program organizer in the municipality, and they shared that it's really unique situation that they're seeing, or maybe not unique, but it's just interesting situation that they're seeing. You know, the person shared that they built all these different programs and services, but it's actually underutilized, and they're not really sure why. And, you know, from the different stories that we've heard, from, you know, what we're seeing in the literature, there could be a lot of different, it seems like there could be a lot of different barriers to, I guess, people accessing those existing services, like, you know, maybe not being aware of it, being available in the community, the lack of transportation, the hours of operation, language barriers, or even maybe just negative experiences from accessing supports and services in the past. So programs benefit when they work directly with those who experience food insecurity and financial strain, and really listening to understand their priorities and design programs together in a way that is culturally safe, acceptable, and easy to access. You know, just from the story that we heard before, our older adults are really wise. They're full of life experience. They're just really looking for ways to contribute. And I think engaging them with building community supports and services are great ways to enhance access to what's already available in the community. And I've also heard about different stories about how, you know, thinking about awareness and maybe as being a barrier. I've heard stories about how different community organizations are partnering to support benefits navigation. And I know there's many of you on the call who are part of older adults servicing agencies who have benefits navigation services as part of your program. But there's also, in addition to that, there are, I think, partnerships I'm hearing with a little bit maybe less traditional places. For example, advertising services and supports, or having like a little booth at community in the library, community events for families with younger children in communities in school fairs. And I just also want to talk about screening. And, you know, Jen and others on this call, feel free to add to the chat or just jump off mute if you have a story to share. But in AHS, we also have an older adults nutrition screening initiative, which maybe perhaps Jen can share a little bit more information about in the chat. And it's about asking older adult questions to see if they're experiencing any challenges that puts them at risk of poor nutritional health. And as part of that, they're also asked about, you know, if they're having difficulties with making ends meet, so experiencing financial strain, or experiencing barriers with physical barriers with accessing foods in the community. And also, you know, after asking those questions, helping them with navigating to different support services in the community. And I know that this project is happening in different communities across Alberta, and there's different partnerships that's happening, such as with you know, different community agencies who's doing supporting the screening, or even with pharmacies who are in regular contact with older adults to kind of talk about ways to raise awareness about what services may be available, and supporting the screening.
Can I just add a story?
Yeah, Jen.
Thanks, Kelly. We were quite pleased, and I think Shelley Cooper's on the call here as well. But the Red Deer Public Library is now doing nutrition screening with homebound clients that they go and bring library books to. And also when they do community presentations to older adults, they're doing a nutrition screen on them as well when the opportunity arises. So it's a great way to show partnership in how our agencies are helping out with older adults and their nutritional well-being. So it's a fabulous partnership we have there. I just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Jen. And, you know, in addition to doing a screening, you know, what I heard from your example is just the idea of normalizing financial strain or challenges with getting enough food or accessing food. You know, if I'm just thinking about the library program being really open to, you know, a range of adults or older adults, you know, the more we're just kind of screening, asking those questions, the more we normalize some of the challenges. And hopefully that also could reduce some of the stigma with associated with the experience of financial strain.
We have a few more comments that came into the chat. So connecting older adults that qualify for special needs assistance with support for paying for celiac groceries and other supports. So with specific food limitations. And then older adults between 55 and 65 have very limited community supports and benefits. So there's a gap of service in that age category of the younger older adults age category. And there's a commiseration with that is statement, this is so true and often the same needs and challenges as people over 65. 65 is a very arbitrary cutoff point.
Yeah, definitely can agree with that. So I acknowledge those realities. And we can, yeah, let's have a conversation about that and maybe just kind of understand maybe what some of those different communities are doing to when there are just limited resources, or what are some ways to kind of band together. I did want to respond to one of the comment that came in about coverage for, or a little bit extra money for seniors who have celiac disease. There's not a lot of things that Alberta Seniors Health Benefit covers, but there is a special diet benefit for seniors who have celiac disease. So they get, I don't know the exact amount, and I could share that after the meeting, or the link to that to the meeting. But they do get a little bit of a supplement to help them pay for gluten-free products. If they can get a letter from a dietitian or a doctor, or I think, dietitian or doctor stating that the older adult experiences has a celiac disease, and what kind of diet that they require to help with managing their condition. Yeah, I just kind of shared another quote about how I know that resources are limited, but where we can, sharing them could just that little bit of support can go a long way. And it might be, I know a lot of times we think about, income benefits or those different resources, but I don't want to underestimate the power or the potential of social connections as well. Because I think a lot of these connection can also help strengthen the resource that people have and the awareness of what they could access. The next example I'll provide is a grocery gift card program. So it's more about shifting any charitable responses to a way that might meet participants' preferences. And so grocery gift card being one. And it's something that I'm hearing more and more communities are exploring. For example, I've heard communities who do blended programs. So for example, giving a combination of food hampers and gift card programs that more families are signing up on weeks that grocery gift cards will be given. I also hear about it being used in distributed as part of Canadian prenatal programs, different food banks, Indigenous communities. And when we think about, it's not for everyone, but for gift cards, it does provide that flexibility. It can enable people to access food they need that's close to your home in a dignifying way, accessing food, the items that they need when they need it. When we think about our older adults, I think there is a big range. I heard earlier about, mobility issues or maybe challenges with preparing foods. And everyone has different needs. And, this isn't the solution, but it's actually one of the ones that have, I guess, more flexibility compared to others in that, if I'm just thinking about and a senior who is able, maybe has some mobility issues, maybe it allows them to buy certain foods like, pre-cut vegetables or pre-cut vegetables or frozen meals. That they're more able to use when they need it. Or microwavable meals. So a gift card is a way that gives people a little bit more flexibility and also helps them with, anyone with medical needs or cultural needs to manage their health. We talked about celiac disease and, there's also halal, kidney disease, diabetes, etc. And then, or the combination of all the above. A gift card can for seniors who are more mobile or can get a ride to the grocery store is a little bit more flexible that way. And it also enables to participate in the social aspect of food and eating. And this is a quote from a grandmother. From this, there's a program in Calgary called I Can for Kids. They do a lot of different researches on research and evaluation on the grocery gift card program. And so this is a quote from one of their participants, and it's about, a grandmother just really appreciating the ability to buy the grocery that her and her grandson needs because of the gift card. And gift card program not only helps participants, but it can reduce the agency's operational costs compared to food campers. So if you're thinking about storage spaces, time to buy, assemble, or deliver the food hamper, gift cards may provide a little bit more flexibility. And Marika, I think, is on the call, and she just shared with me today an interesting piece of informal feedback she heard from her seniors coordinator in Drumheller. And I'll share that if that's okay, Marika. But it's about when they were discussing allocating, when she was having a conversation with her seniors coordinator, when they're discussing allocating future funding to food security programs, gift cards, hot meal program, is that the coordinator thought that more funding should go to gift cards because she found more seniors were interested in gift cards than hot meal delivery, because of that flexibility, recognizing that hot meals might be more appropriate for some. So there is, if you go to icanforkids.ca, they do have a lot more information about gift card programs. They're really super open to sharing their experiences and supporting agencies who are interested in moving towards this direction. So feel free to also just email that hello@icanforkids.ca to contact Bobby, who can share their experience. There's also lots of dietitians on this call and local dietitians I can help connect you with, who can maybe share a little bit more about this program and their experiences in their community as well. And this is my last example. It's about community initiatives that increase inclusion and reduce stigma. And looking at these I selected these two quotes because it just shows that the perceived stigma that can be associated with getting help. And just thinking about, within the existing programs we have, how can we make it a little bit more inclusive or reduce some of the stigma? So for example, reducing just thinking about how we ask for, how we assess eligibility, are we, how much work do we ask for and how much information we're asking for people as part of that? What are some of the eligibility criteria? Are there ways just to broaden it a little bit so more people can participate? How can we create that environment so it feels a little bit more like more inclusive and a little bit more welcoming for those who decide to access those services. Some of the things, some of the examples that I've heard about would include just hosting community events that's open to everyone to reduce stigma and foster social connection. Looking for ways to offer free or low-cost recreation opportunities. There are communities who are hosting community dinners that anyone else can anyone can participate in, just to create that social environment, or subsidized meals, etc. So yeah, I think it's really just thinking about what's possible to shift to increase that sense of inclusion, and where possible, where are some opportunities to partner with other organizations in order to take some of those actions that we've talked about. So this slide, yeah, I think this is actually one of my last slides, and it's about, I got three more slides, and this slide kind of wraps up what I've just shared with you, and it's about the importance of comprehensive and multi-component intervention. So as we talked about, that experience of household food insecurity is complex, and there is different actions that communities can take to support individuals, each having very unique experiences and different types of social supports. So, and this slide really talks about, these are, I'm not saying these are the 4 actions, but just talking about, different actions from different categories, working together to help older adults and other individuals in the community afford foods that meet food preferences and needs, strengthen social connections and social supports, enhance physical and mental well-being, and preserve dignity. And we heard those realities about limited resources in the community. And I just wanted to share this one video from the Reducing Impact of Financial Strain project and Tara's experience.
In my work as an advocate, I saw how financial insecurity is hard enough for people, but then you add things like chronic pain, addiction, mental health, lower or no literacy, lack of social supports, or unhealthy supports, and the hundreds of other little things that can change and fill up the day. For many, it can often seem too overwhelming to move forward. At first, I thought once we had figured out how to reduce the impact of financial strain on the health of one person, we could do the same for everyone else. I quickly realized every patient had different abilities, challenges, and strengths. Every situation was unique. I tried my best to optimistically navigate what seemed at times as an ever-changing system, policies, procedures, and resources. I had to put the pieces of the puzzle together backwards. I started with the person in front of me. Who were they? What are their strengths and challenges? What did they need to access the resources to move forward? Ending with, what do we currently have in our community to improve their health and support their wellness? Our community, like every community, had gaps in services that directly affect financial strain. It was easy to see what we didn't have, but in the process of putting together the asset map with Courtney, the RIF's health promotion facilitator, I learned what we did have. I realized that most of the time we had the puzzle pieces, we just needed to communicate and have some common goals. Learning about how others served our community and identifying ways to partner was essential to reduce the impact of financial strain on people's health.
So when I hear that story, for me, the key takeaway is, the power of communities working together, organizations working together. The concept of asset mapping really stood out to me to identify the strengths that your community already has. Maybe it's within our nature or my nature anyways. It's oftentimes just really easy to identify gaps, what's not working, what's not available. But as I'm just hearing stories from reducing this project and others, and just even there's a lot of discussion about asset-based community development. It's about just kind of connecting together to start with where we're strong, and to be able to build on that, to leverage what strengths we have and continue to build on that to kind of strengthen our communities together. So this is my last slide before we go into resources, but I'd love to just continue to hear from you and learn about what's working well in your community that you think you can build on or related to this topic, or what opportunities are there in your community to identify community assets with partners.
So we have a backload of comments here to go through. Marike had mentioned that the celiac grocery through the special needs assistance equals $56 a month. There was a lot of resonance with the gift cards going through. One comment says, "This is brilliant. I think it can rob a lot of dignity from people to not only have to use a food bank, but also to have someone else pick up groceries that might not meet their preferences." And Tatiana was commenting that Jewish Family Services Edmonton has a grocery card program for the Holocaust survivors via prepaid float Visa credit cards. And then there was a comment here from Allison saying, "I heard that the food banks expressed that raising the equivalent money for gift cards that they receive in actual food donations would be impossible, or it would take a lot more volunteer hours in fundraising, more than the volunteer hours currently used to make food baskets." So there could be some barriers here of going the gift card option as far as how that might be feasible. And a comment, "I expect that's true. I know that some of our donors would like to give something tangible and not all volunteers want to fundraise, but they rely heavily on food rescue and also hard to see the clients lose choice." You guys are keeping this chat busy here. I also heard that Rural Food Bank would give the gift cards to food stores within the local area, keep the money in the local economy, but the food costs are more than it is in the larger nearby center that isn't as much choice for special needs, diet, cultural preferences. Wondering if there are ideas for solutions around this. So the not being as much choice in the rural centers is, I think, the main part of that question.
Yeah.
And then there's a feedback on that. In Drumheller, we did work with our local grocery stores to get discounts for buying gift cards in bulk so the money could go further. Funding through small donations may be difficult to maintain. Grants and potential larger donations, corporate, could be options that we could explore here as a collective. And there's a few thumbs up for that. And that is the end of the current chat. Anybody else want to unmic themselves or add your thoughts?
So like I'm glad that just to hear that just the concept of providing charitable support in a way that better meets the needs and the preferences of recipients, older adults, anyone in the community, such as a gift card, which is really how most people get their food. I'm sorry, grocery stores are where most people get their food. Just kind of can restore that or preserve that sense of dignity. And I hear the realities. I hear the realities of maybe what donors are willing to provide. I hear the realities, maybe things looking a little bit different in rural communities and in terms of, food. I guess if there is a grocery store, I think it's a conversation. I think it starts with just that willingness to explore. Now, how can we shift what we're doing in a way that maybe better supports the people that we're in service to and in involving them in the conversation? I think it is, if we're thinking about the donor, in terms of donor piece, like yeah, I hear that, and I just kind of wonder, what are some opportunities to shift minds about how people can provide support in the community. I know that, through the ICANN for Kids, this is their strategy, right? And I wonder if it might work for your community, is that, when they just, starting with pilot programs and then just collecting impact stories. And how it's helpful and then just kind of and using it as a way maybe just to work out what could it look like if this is expanding. Can we just start small with a small group and just kind of see and what are we hearing? Are people, how are people benefiting from it? What are some of those benefits that we're hearing? What are some things that's not working well, just to really kind of maybe understand how this could work for your community. And then maybe those stories could be used to share with donors, to maybe see if there's a way that there might be more interest in shifting how they might want to support their neighbors. I also, in rural communities, it's tough. But it's not, I think it's in rural communities, the situation is quite unique. It's income definitely a big barrier, but there might also be food access. So that's where just kind of coming together with other organizations, even with grocery stores or any kind of food providers in the communities and also those who are experiencing the financial strain, food insecurity, just come together to co-create what would make sense. And trying things. Just to see what next, if it's working, what can be built upon, or maybe something else that we need to work on together. I hear a lot from communities where, sometimes it's just being aware, like, and if we heard from that, the RIFs video, it's just sometimes being aware of all the different work that's happening in the community. And once we're aware and maybe more connected, to have those conversations about like, oh, you're doing this. I wonder if there's a way we can work together and just kind of pool resources to better serve just to serve our community in a different way.
So we have some great sharing here going on of what's working well in folks' communities. So Sarah their organization has a breads and more program with the food bank. So 3 times a week, the individuals can come and fill up 2 bags, no questions asked. And they also have at their library a community fridge that people can get food from. So yeah, those are some great ideas. And I know a few of the different cities have those reclaimed food programs, like the breads or the leftovers or the community fridges. I know community fridges in Calgary here is pretty big. We have them all over the city, the pantries and the fridges. Tatiana noticed that fundraising for a community meal or celebration is often more successful than fundraising for food baskets or grocery cards. So it's an easier sell for the funders to do that big win. Sarah's commented that they've done a cultural community potluck that went so well that they're actually planning to run this 4 times a year. So again, with the impactful event. Terry's program is doing a Grow a Row initiative with the Horticultural Club. So getting involved with the gardening here. And then Jennifer is talking about how sharing stories is a very powerful way to reach supporters and justify the need. Allison is talking about how there is definitely a need for public awareness of the barriers of food banks, because so often they are celebrated as the solution and not enough is said about how it's a Band-Aid solution. Educating the public on the benefits of food cards or other innovations could be helpful.
Lots of great ideas from this group. Jen or Stephanie, I'll just, I guess, thanks for moderating the chat box for me, but I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about what's shared. And maybe even just thinking about, what's the next step for this, the food insecurity or food security core group to connect and learn from each other.
Thanks, Kelly. What was going through my mind was I'm wondering about this group being like the go-to place to share their stories and post their stories and then get the word out. Because there are so many different ideas going on here, and we've really only scratched the surface of what's going on in the province. So it's kind of what I was wondering, if our group could be kind of the gatekeeper, I guess, of what's happening, or a place to share or get ideas from others. I'd like to hear people's thoughts on that.
I'll stop sharing so we can just have an open conversation.
Yes, so if what Jennifer's talking about, if anybody's unfamiliar, we do have the food security group. So this event is hosted by the CORE Alberta Food Security Group. And so within CORE, we have group platforms to collaborate and connect on issues such as this. So within the food security group, we have the opportunity to discuss some of these issues and share some of our wins and our other stories that we're seeing, either some of these gaps that we're seeing, and collaboratively talk about where we could maybe fill those gaps or how we could fill those gaps. But then also we can have discussion streams about what is working for us that could maybe inspire others in their areas of the province as well. Also in the group, we have some resource sharing. If anybody comes across any wonderful resource that they would like to share with the rest of the community here, please share them with us. We'd love to have that information that can help inspire initiatives. And we do want to invite all of you, if you're not part of that group already, to join us, because we want to keep having these conversations about food security and how we can together collectively push for more sustainable and more supportive options for older adults here in the province. I would like to mention, so we have Jennifer in the room, who is one of the food security group leads. And we also have Monica Morrison, who's been a little bit more of a fly on the wall here, who's another one of our champions in the room. But I will, and we have a few hopefuls also in the room that are potentially going to join us as group leads here. I will pass it back to you, Jennifer, to chat some more about this.
I was going to say, we do need people on this group. It only works if you have people that want to come together. So like Stephanie said, we have a couple hopefuls, but we really do need more people. So we totally encourage anyone who's here today, or if you know of others that might want to join this group through Healthy Aging Alberta core, we'd love to hear from you.
So Stephanie, there is a question that popped up into the chat room around Ashley had posted, what would it look like on core for sharing of information? Since you are the keeper of the core, could you share what that could look like under the food security group?
Yes, 100%. I can share how we can continue these conversations. And actually, it might be useful for me to just actually share screen directly with our group here.
Yeah.
So I can just show you what our group has right now. And you just need to find us. This is the Core Alberta platform. If you haven't been on there yet, we have lots of general information sharing, but then we have these groups specifically working on issues. So we have our food security group here. And that's where we have the opportunities here in our group to have discussion threads and forums. So anybody can add a discussion and then others can comment on that same thread. So when you have a discussion, for example, if I have this one open, this one was a general one, you can post whatever your thread is and others can like it and comment. So we could also set up some of these conversation discussions like what we've been having of the sharing our wins or maybe some of the issues and needs. We have a resources section that we share different, and anybody can post a new resource. If there's toolkits, if there's manuals, if there's reports, if there's webinars you come across, anything that you think would benefit others in the community and help support their work. So we have a variety of resources there already, and others can add resources as you go. Anybody in the group can add resources. We want to keep hosting continued events, and we want to have your voice in if anybody wants to be a more interactive leader with us. You can help us plan these, but otherwise we are hoping to have more throughout the year here, and we'd love your thoughts on additional topics for events as well, but we do post them in here in the groups. You can see upcoming events such as the Stretch to the Max week. And then there is the opportunity to actually directly connect with the other members and see the members, and even like directly send them a message if needed, if you wanted to network with a certain person there. So that's a little bit of the overview of the group directly, and we do invite everybody to come into there so that we can continue these conversations.
Jennifer Shearer also had a comment.
Mm-hmm.
How to get connected with the group. So my question for Jennifer would be, connected with the core group as for food security where you just sign up? Or are you talking about being connected with the leadership team of the group? So yeah. There's two different ways of being connected, Jennifer. If you could expand on that, that would be great.
We would love to have more voices on our leadership team.
Yes.
With the group in general, I just put the group link in the chat. You will have to make a core profile to be able to join the groups. Mm-hmm. But it's right there. So you'll see it's in the chat here. And then if anybody in this room has resonated with potentially wanting to be in the leadership group with us and help plan some of these additional events or connection opportunities, reach out to us. I'll put my email in the chat here and you can reach out to me and I can connect you with the others.
And we're always looking for ideas. Yeah. And I think we're open to lots of things. I know it was mentioned earlier, maybe to talk about or give a refresher on nutrition screening for older adults and what's happening in that area, because there's lots of new stuff happening since I presented on that topic. A year ago, I think I presented to this group and across the province, but there's lots more happening. So that's just one area we could talk about in the future. But obviously, we could use a lot more ideas. So this is a platform to get your message out, your content out. And I'm looking forward to hearing from people. Does anybody have any ideas right now that they would like to promote as an upcoming event, whether it be a topic or a person they'd like to see or recommend?
Is that question in the questionnaire, Stephanie, that we're going to be sending out? For
Yes, yes. So I just put the questionnaire in the chat there, and we do have one of the questions, so you can give us your feedback on this event and how you enjoyed it. And then there's also a question there of what type of content would you like to see in the future that we can look at, and that will help us plan for the next year of offerings as well. There is a comment here that it might be helpful to share some ideas about preparing food for 1 or 2 people. I shared food with my mother from 2013 to 2017, and she was unable to heat up her own meals until age 97. Or she was able to heat up her own meals until age 97. My food in 2022 and 2023 averaged slightly less than $5 a day, but I depend on buying larger quantities that I needed to get a sale price. So some of that smaller food preparation. There is, in some of the bigger centers, there's also some of the food centers and places that have some of those courses on making food on shoestring budget or smaller amounts. I don't know about all the places, but I know here in Calgary, the Alex Community Food Center does have some lovely courses on there too that older adults or anybody from the community that's facing food insecurity can go attend for free, sign up. They have community meals. They have all sorts of lovely gardening and indigenous food sovereignty and all sorts of variety of different programming at the Alex Community Food Center. But I think some of the other big centers also have some similar programming.
So Terry, if you could put in your survey, because she recommended having somebody talk from Food Banks Alberta. So if you would put that in the food survey,
Yeah, I can
have that documented. That would be awesome.
Yes, that's great. I think that's all of our presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we will stay here just so you folks can keep commenting or chatting with us. I would like to note that we will send out a post email with the recording here, and we will also share some of those links and slides, and please let us know your feedback in the survey. And we want to invite you all to join our group and connect with us more around this, so that collaboratively in Alberta, we can build more supportive services for these older adults. And I'll turn it back to Jennifer and Monica and Kelly to say any last words. I'm going to stop the recording.